Today, we're digging into a massive crisis that's brewing in the world of football, and it's one you probably haven't heard much about. You've got a country with 1.4 billion people, a place that should be an absolute hotbed for the sport. But right now, it's facing a complete and total meltdown. Let's get into it. Yeah, that just doesn't compute, does it? 1 billion+ people and 0 matches? You know, for years, everyone called Indian football the sleeping giant. But now you have to ask, did the giant just hit the snooze button again, or is it actually in a coma? Because that's how long the country's top football league has been completely shut down. Over 200 days. Just think about that for a second. No games being played. Nothing on TV. Just silence. It's pretty unreal. So yeah, we're not just talking about a bad season or a little bit of a slump here. This is a full-blown crisis. And it's hitting every single level of the game, from the high-flying boardrooms all the way down to the players on the field. Right, so this brings us back to that idea of a coma. It's not just that things have stalled. The league has literally collapsed. Why? Because absolutely no one, not a single commercial buyer, is willing to put up the money to keep it going. And that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth does this even happen? You've got a market like India. We're talking a huge population, a growing economy. So how does a major sports league end up with 0 bidders for its rights? It just doesn't make sense on the surface. Well, the answer is, the whole thing was basically a house of cards. It was built from the top down, all glitz and glamour, with a foundation that was just waiting to give way. Okay, so let's break down how this happened. For 10 solid years, the Indian Super League was kept afloat by one single huge commercial deal. And the thinking was, hey, when this deal ends in 2025, there's going to be a massive bidding war to get the rights. But what actually happened? Nothing. Crickets. The silence was absolutely deafening. So why didn't that bidding war ever happen? Well, here's the breakdown. That initial high you get from having big celebrity owners, it faded. And the league, being built from the top, never managed to create that deep-rooted, passionate local fan culture. So what did potential investors see? They saw empty seats, TV ratings that weren't growing, and just a really bad return on their investment. So they did the logical thing. They walked. And if you need a perfect example of how bad the confidence crisis got, look no further. We're talking about the City Football Group, the powerhouse that owns Manchester City. Even they started pulling back their investment in their Indian club. And you know when the biggest money in the game gets nervous, you've got a real problem. So all this chaos off the field, it was bound to spill onto the field, right? And it did, in a big way. This financial disaster led directly to what you could call one of the darkest days in the national team's recent history. Yup, a historic, and I mean historic, 1-0 loss to Bangladesh. To put that in perspective, this was India's first loss to them in over 20 decades. It was a completely humiliating result, and it just sent shockwaves through the entire community. And this really gets to the heart of the problem. It's a vicious cycle. Let's walk through it. Step 1, the league gets suspended. That means your best players aren't playing any competitive games, which leads to Step 2, they lose their match fitness. And what happens then? Step 3, the national team starts getting poor results. The final blow, Step 4, sponsors and investors look at this mess and run for the hills, which just makes the whole situation worse. The cycle just feeds itself. And the end result of that downward spiral? India's FIFA World Ranking has absolutely cratered. They've dropped all the way to 142nd. That's their lowest point in almost 10 years. It's just a catastrophic fall. And right in the middle of all this, you have a true legend, the captain, Sunil Chhetri. I mean, this guy played into his 40s, doing everything he could to hold the team together. But even he knew it was a losing battle. His own words really say it all. And seeing him walk off that field, it felt like so much more than just another loss. It really felt like the end of an era that had so much promise, but in the end, it was built on a foundation that was just crumbling away. So, is that it? Is the story over? Is Indian football just done for? Well, maybe not. Because if you look closely, amidst all this wreckage in the men's professional game, there's actually a surprising glimmer of hope. This is where things get really interesting. Just look at this tale of two teams. On one side, you've got the men's game in total chaos. But on the other, the women's national team just qualified for the Asian Cup. The under-17s are beating some of the best teams in Asia. So what does that tell you?
The problem isn't a lack of talent, not at all. It's a problem with how the whole thing is being managed.
And that realization is sparking a huge conversation about a complete overhaul. The big idea on the table is a club-owned model, kind of like what you see with the English Premier League. And this is the key part. If the clubs own the league, they have a direct stake in its long-term health. It's not about making a quick buck for some outside investor. It's about building something that lasts. Now, let's be clear, this wouldn't be easy. It would be a painful reset. The league would probably get smaller, all that glitz and celebrity glamour, gone. The big money would dry up. The whole focus would have to shift away from trying to create an instant spectacle and toward the slow, hard work of building a real, sustainable foundation from the ground up. Which really leaves us with the final question. Is what we're seeing the beginning of a painful but necessary rebirth for Indian football, or are we just hearing the final whistle blow on a sleeping giant that, in the end, never really woke up at all?